Okay, welcome to our third finite state machine in HaxeFlixel video. The previous one should be the longest video I've ever recorded doing HaxeFlixel tutorials, so thank you so much if you managed to watch it. If you haven't, please go ahead and watch that before watching this, because if you jump straight to this without having that knowledge, it's going to be a bit weird. So with that said, let me go into the code. In our last video, we created a simple finite state machine using enums. So we created some enums here and used a case switch here, so switch case to change our to our states, and we tidied this code up a bit. And in this video, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to use the FSM or FSM addon or FlxFSM addon, the Flixel, FSM. Sorry, so many acronyms. I'm getting confused. Right, we're going to use the Flixel finite state machine addon. And to do that, you have to make sure that in your project's XML, you've uncommented out the add-ons. So let's find that, uncomment it, because we're going to use one of them. Cool. So for this video, it's going to be really helpful to have this code, this old code side by side with the new code we're going to write. So to do that, I'm just going to copy this, paste it in here, and then put it here whenever it works. There we go. So this is our old code, this is our new code. First things first, let's get rid of this enum because we're not using that anymore. And let's use a new variable. We're going to call it, actually let's get rid of that because we don't need this anymore as well. We're going to call it FSM to stand for finite state machine. And this will be FlxFSM, which we haven't yet imported, but we should. And this will be the player. Okay. So this can either be the player or the Flex sprite. I've made it the player because I'm going to use some variables here later on, which will make sense down the line. For some reason, it didn't do the IntelliSense thing. So I'll have to import it manually in a second, but let's assign this variable to the finite state machine, and that'll be new Flx FSM, and then it'll be player. So this takes in one argument. It's an optional argument, but we need it for this case, and it will be our sprite in question. So to pass this whole sprite into here, we can use this keyword, which I haven't used before in the videos, but essentially I'm getting all this and putting it in here. Okay, so because our import didn't work with IntelliSense, maybe I had to restart after enabling this, but I didn't. So we're going to have to do it manually. It'll be import flixel.addons util FlxFSM. Okay, so to get this to work, basically this works in a very similar way to this. So as you can see, these essentially are our transitions. So these are what caused us to transition from one state to the other. And we're going to kind of replicate this, but here. So just the logic part, not the meat inside here. So we're going to create FSM.transitions. There's no IntelliSense at the moment, which will be quite annoying. We might have more bugs to fix later on, but we'll deal with it. And we'll add three transitions. We'll have grounded to jumping. So we'll have the state that takes care of that. Just copy it. Sorry, my spelling this morning. Grounded to jumping. And then we'll have another state, which will be, of course, jumping to grounded. And we'll have our final one, which will be how the whole thing starts. So it starts, and it will start grounded. Whoops. Okay, thank you for doing that. Whatever you are, Flixel formatting thingy. Yeah, so as you can see, we've got transition. So one will be from grounded to jumping, which is happening here, jump to grounding, which is happening here, and then grounded, which is this default state, which happens up here. Cool. So now let's put the logic in to cause it to transition. These take in, what do you call it? Functions. So these take in functions that need an argument. I think the argument is the sprite itself, but we don't need that for this. So you can write basically, I don't know if I've talked about this already, but instead of writing an anonymous function like this, so that's a function without a name. So we could do that, or we could also write it this way. It's the same thing pretty much. And my preference is if it's a one-liner function that is a part of an argument, this is the best way to write it. And because we don't need the argument that it requires, we'll just put an underscore. Okay, so to get from grounded to jumping, as you see, we need to have this. So jumping and touching floor. So there we have it. And that is pretty much it. We'll do a similar thing here. So to get from jumping to grounded, we need to have that saying touching floor. Copy and paste that because it's quicker. But you probably have noticed an error in that I don't have a touching floor variable inside this file. So let's grab this one and put it here. So make it a variable. And similar to the way these two work, we need to just have, this is a Boolean, I believe. Yeah, this is a Boolean. So we need to have that work the same way that we have left and right. So it will be false by default. And then it will update down here. Now, of course, ideally, I would probably use a singleton that will take care of all the stuff. I've made a video previously about singletons for controls. I'll use a singleton and then we'll need to do this hacky way of doing it. But for this case, let's just do it like this, and then we'll, yeah, for your game, use a singleton, but for this case, we'll just have these here and update it down there. Cool. So we've got our transitions, we've got the logic, and this is essentially our state machine done. Now we need to put some meat into these, and the way we put meat into them is to have separate classes. So we need to have a separate grounded class and a separate jumping class with all the meat inside it. I say meat, the content, the logic, you know what I mean. So let's create our classes. We'll create it at the bottom here, outside of our player class, and we'll say class jumping extends FlxFSM states. Is that how you write that? Yeah. Player. I'm not asking you, I'm asking myself, talking to myself, as you do when you're crazy. And so this FlxFSM whatever provides three methods. One is enter, update, and exit. So when you enter the state, what would happen when you enter it, and then when you update, what's going to happen, and when you exit, what's going to happen. So for this video, we're only going to use two of those. We're only going to use the enter and update because we don't need to exit. Yeah, I don't think we do. No, we don't. We don't need to exit. So we'll override them because you have to override them because it's an extend. So we override the functions that it comes with, the methods. I'm messing up my words this morning. Function to override the function, which is enter. And you have to pass in, I think, 2 arguments with this one. So one of them is the player itself, which we will use. Actually, let me just have them as blank for now. So I'll fill them in as and when I need them, but we'll leave them empty for now so I can write the code in. What we're going to say is player velocity. Actually, let's just copy and paste here. Cool, and then you can see why we then need to have the player, should be a type of player, and then we'll have player.velocity, why? So when you jump, similar to here, when you enter the jump state, the player will jump immediately, and then when the player is in the air, update. So the update here is a bit similar to that we have here, in the sense that it hasn't elapsed as well, but we're not going to use the elapse. So that takes in 3 arguments as well. I'll take in the elapse, which is the float, the player, or whatever sprite we have here, and this will be the FSM, so the finite state machine, which is defined up here. There we go. So you can pass that down as well, but we're not going to use that for anything. So I've left that underscored here, and I'll leave that underscored here as well. And I don't need the elapse for anything, so I'll leave that underscored or empty, but I do need the player. So I'll grab the player, put it in here. And then what this is going to do is it's going to say play the jump animation. So we'll grab the player jump animation and we'll say that if the player is pressing the left button, so if player.left or player.right. Then we want the player.movement movement to be 250. So as you can see, play with the animation, yeah, that makes sense because that is this. Player.left is not public, right? So this will fail. Similarly, player.movement isn't public either. So if I were to run this right now, this will fail because I can't find these three. So let's change that. Let's make this a public variable. If I can spell correctly. There we go. And I'll put that here as well. And similarly, movement, which is down here, we'll make that public as well. And that takes in the speed, so it's obeying the argument. Cool, so that's our jumping class pretty much done. Let's do the same for our grounded. We'll copy that. Close that here, and we'll call that grounded. Cool. So now what we're going to have on our grounded is we're just going to have one method. So we're not going to have enter, we'll just have update. So let's grab this. Whoops. Oh, why didn't that work? Okay, here we go. Grab that, put that here. And of course, what's going to happen here is if the player is pressing left or right, then we want the player walking animation to happen. So that will be, I think, here. Yep. Maybe both of them. We want both of them, don't we? So grab that, put that here, and play a dot for both of them. Okay. So this should be correct apart from this. So walk will fail as well because that is not public. In fact, that is nested inside here. So we need to grab that out and do the same thing we've been doing up here. We'll make a public var. We'll make it false by default, and we'll put that here first though. Who's texting me? I should have put my phone on airplane mode. Okay, so we are going to make this false by default. I hope this is all making sense and I'm not just talking gibberish. But anyway, so we made this false by default, and now down here, what that means is player.left, player.right, correct, player.animation, player.walk, yes, run. Perfect. Okay, now I've got this. So these are neither public, and I could make them public if I want to, but I don't really want to because it's just a lot of code to write. So I'll put 100 here, I'll put 250 there, and I think that is it. No, I'm lying. We forgot to add the idle animation, which is that. Idle. Yep. So that is it. One more thing we have to do. As you can see, we're still calling movement states. We don't need that. We need to call the FSM instead. Okay, so now we can delete a bunch of stuff. Do we use this anywhere? Let me have a look. We use it. Where is this? We need to use this somewhere, don't we? No, we don't. We don't, because we're using that down here. So we can get rid of this movement states, the whole thing. And we can also get rid of grounded anims. Yes, but we keep movement because we need that. And fingers crossed that should work. So let's see if we have any errors in the code.